Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the CPS report. And today I'm doing my recap on 166 Qatar, Rania Derrida versus Anatoly Malykhin. What a massive card this was. Big display of martial arts, especially on the MMA front. The card was built around a lot of the MMA fighters rather than the Muay Thai side of things. So it's good to see that side because I thought if we went back to the cage and not necessarily in the square boxing ring. Let me kick it off with my reflection on the main event. That was Rene Derena versus Anatoly Malykhin for the middleweight world title. And this was the second time that these guys fought each other. The first fight obviously ended in very quick fashion. Anatoly devastatingly knocking out Rene Derrida. Coming into this fight, the question was, uh, is Anatoly going to be able to make the middleweight? Is he going to make the weight cut and able to go through the fight without having to deplete his cardio? And for René Derrida was obviously defending his title in the weight class that he is most dominant in, and would he be able to impose his game plan, his will on someone that is arguably, not even arguably, without a shadow of a doubt, just a lot stronger than RDR. And going into this fight, it was that it looked like round one, two, and three, it looked like it was RDR trying to survive, trying to not get knocked out, trying not to get sort of how do I say, dominated. And what it looked like was he, tried to get the clinch from for the most part, and that's where he was gonna try and impose his offense, get into the clinch, throw some knees, get the takedown down, and kind of submit Anatoly. But Anatoly being a lot stronger fighter, being naturally the heavyweight, so he's a lot stronger, bigger. He was avoiding that. He avoided it in the first round, which basically nullified the main attack that RDR wanted to use, and it only nullified it within the first round. Then he utilized his boxing and his octagon, I say octagon, his cage control, where he kept RDR literally in front of him at all costs of the fight. Wherever they went, lateral movement, left to right, forward, backwards, Anatoly stayed applying that pressure and stayed keeping that distance and keeping that pace where and kept the movement where you wanted RDR to move. If RDR tried to move too far left to the lateral movement, tried to get away from this from Anatoly, Anatoly would just throw a very looping hook. And not to the face, he would throw it to the body, which pretty much made him win the fight because he just kept on targeting that body with the looping strikes. Every time RDR moved to the left or moved to the right, a looping right hook or a looping left hook to the body kept RDR back in the center. And that's how he was implementing his, Anatoly was implementing his game plan, and how he was pretty much successful for the fight. Yeah, landing good jabs, good straights. Even within the clinch, when RDR did have a lock on him and maybe threw a knee to the body, it didn't disturb Anatoly at all. He just broke loose from that, he literally shoved RDR back to the cage and then started doing his boxing combinations. And that's where he was successful, and that made him win the fight because although he didn't actually get any knockout, a lot of the body shots depleted RDR's gas tank to the point where he literally couldn't stand up within the third round, which then did the fight a TKO in Anatoly's favor, making it 2-0. He now has two victories over RDR. And if you can find out and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Anatoly Malykhin is now the first MMA fighter of all time to actually simultaneously hold three belts in three divisions. That's the heavyweight, the light heavyweight, and the middleweight title. And if you look at him, and he was able to make that weight with ease. I think Anatoly Malykhin is going to be it's going to be a very very tough fighter to take out, especially in all three of those divisions. I don't see a threat because RDR for me was the biggest threat. He was arguably the most talented fighter that Malykhin could face, and we made it look easy in both encounters. Malykhin made it look very easy, and I think what I was most impressed about Malykhin was that he actually made the weight in middleweight, and it didn't look like he had any problem with endurance. He was able to survive the 3 rounds. He didn't need to sit down in any of the mid round breaks where they collect their water and things. He didn't show any signs of fatigue, and I think that's a big sign going into the future for any fighter that's in any of those divisions, middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight. If you look at Anatoly and you see him making that weight easy and mopping the floor with RDR, makes you wonder who's going to be the one to beat him. And now the question is, what does he do next? Does his next fight become a middleweight bout where he defends the title there? Does he defend it at the light heavyweight, or does he defend it at heavyweight? That's the question for the one championship. And for you as the fans, let me know, what do you think should be the next matchup for Anatoly Malykhin? But yeah, big victory for him nonetheless. Let's move it down the fight card. The rematch between Tang Kai and Tang Li. Um, Bit of a strange one. They were evenly matched. Neither guy really wanted to look to finish the fight early, which then made the referee get involved in a way that he didn't want him to. He was given issued a yellow card to both fighters because of inactivity. But I mean, it's a title fight. The guys are coming into a title fight. You don't necessarily want to give up too much. You don't want to go out there and and literally concede the fight within the first round or second round. So for me personally, the guys were kind of feeling each other out. They were trying to figure out whose game plan would be the one to implement first. I noticed from right off the back that Tang Li went into a southpaw stance, which if I'm not mistaken, in the first fight, that's what kind of made Tang Kai not too sure how to be offensive because he's fighting southpaw Tang Li. However, Tang Li doesn't necessarily have a lot of tools off his southpaw. If I noticed him watching him in the UFC and watching him in the One Championship now, when he switches to southpaw, he mainly utilizes a jab and a left body kick. He jab, left high kick. He doesn't necessarily throw any boxing combinations with a 2-1 and high kick or 1-2 low kick. He just, that's his shots. It's very defensive. It's a really defensive stance for him. If you look at a lot of his fights, when Tang Li switches to southpaw, he's very defensive minded in that regard. And when he switches back to orthodox, this is where he starts letting his hands go. However, in orthodox, every time he does go to orthodox, you find the repeat of what happened in the first fight. Tang Kai just chopped away at his front leg every time he did that, and I think that was the issue he faced in the first fight, and that's what he tried to avoid in the second fight. However, that made the fight kind of stalemate, whereby Tang Kai didn't bite when Tang Li was in southpaw. He only bit whenever Tang Li switched back to orthodox, and that's when Tang Kai put the pressure on. And that was pretty much how the fight played out until Tang Kai was able to land the TKO in the third round with a beautiful step forward, right straight, dropping Tang Li, and then just finished him off with a couple of hammer fists and ground and pound, and secured the featherweight title and unified the title for Tang Kai. In the preview, myself and Jed did kind of predict that Tang Kai was going to be the one to be victorious in this fight, and it looks like that was going to be the case. Tang Li, I think, my personal opinion, that may be his last run at the title. I think for now until then, he's probably going to be the one that's going to gatekeep the number one contender spot in that featherweight division. Let's see what the future holds for him, because I mean, he's on the other side of 30, whereas in Tang Kai still has the youthfulness and the potential to still go on a longer run in that featherweight division. So big victory for Tang Kai. Superb performance. Let's move it down the bout, down the card. Jared Brooks faced Joshua Pacia in the strawweight middleweight world championship. What to say? The fight just got very. There's some kind of heat between the two guys, and Joshua Pacia, for the most part, is trying to not get involved in the way Jared Brooks brings the energy to this fight. Jared Brooks is a dog, man, straight up killer. But sometimes he goes a bit too much, to the point that where it could be at his detriment. I sometimes feel like he gets too emotionally inclined in the fights, whereby you'll get gassed out, or you'll do something silly and get tapped out, or in this case he got himself DQ'd. I feel like he was too overhyped. I think because of the past between the two of them. I think he got too overhyped in this fight and grappled to the point where he picked Joshua Pacia up, body locked him, suplexed, and then gunked him. And eventually, unfortunately, he spiked Joshua Pacia, which landed him directly on the top of his head on the crown, knocking him out. And for ending in the fight, unfortunately, disqualification for Jared Brooks. He was emotionally disturbed by it. He obviously felt like he didn't intentionally try to do that. You could argue it back and forth of how it was he intentional, wasn't he intentional? Was that just the law of physics of how the body tipped over and the momentum took them into that? Regardless, that was the DQ. That now makes Joshua Pacia the champion. I'm sure Joshua wouldn't want to win the title in that fashion in any way, shape, or form. but he has. That's unfortunately the rules. And now that means that they would have to rematch, making it a third fight. And hopefully that the fight, when they fight again, that doesn't end up ending in the way that it did. Jared Brooks does. I think just naturally the fight has to be rematched. It doesn't. That didn't end in a way where you go, oh, Jared Brooks, because he got DQ, doesn't deserve the next title shot. Like yeah, if he didn't do that slam, wow, what would have happened next? Because we know that Charlie Brooks is a superior wrestler. So, it's so hard to argue what would be the outcome to that fight. Because Charlie Brooks, for me personally, probably would have won it. So I think they should rematch just so we can get the outcome there and give Charlie Brooks the fair chance to come back and give Joshua the fair chance to actually fight the fight. I mean, he didn't really get to show anything. So I think give them a rematch and then so we can get a unified title champion in that division over there. Because we know we have Bokang in the background, waiting in the ranks to get his shot at the title again. But let's see what happens. Let's see what the one championship comes up with for that division. Just want to say my wishes out to Joshua Pacia for speedy recovery. You are the champion. Speedy recovery, recover well, and then come back in a good health, tip-top shape so you can defend that title against Jared Brooks once again. And let's take it down to my last recap, which was also the last fight that I previewed in the previous episode. The heavyweight bout between Arjan Bhullar and Amir Aliabari. Another disqualification. Another disqualification. Arjan Bhullar got, I think it was 2 or 3 yellow cards, which then rendered a red card, which then ultimately gave him the disqualification. Now, you get those cards. It's the first time I saw it, to be honest. It's the first time I saw it. And I think you get those cards for inactivity. If you're trying to avoid the fight, coming into a fight and you're trying to avoid the fight. Now, I know there's a fine line between bobbing and weaving, of evading strikes, and then also implementing your offense, turning your defense into offense, and ultimately being part in the fight, being active in the fight. In this fight, Arjan was ultimately just evading for the most part. He did, and every time he did try and engage, he was so afraid of getting knocked out again that you could see whenever Arjan came in, Amir came in and landed a hook or landed a straight, he literally backed up Arjan to the point where Arjan literally didn't want to engage anymore. And then you would have to wait for like 5 minutes where the referee would literally get on his bum and say, listen, dude, I'm going to call you again. If you don't step up and get into the fight, I'm going to call you all the time. Because what do you do? What are you here for? I get that he got freakishly knocked out again, lastly by Anatoly Malykhin, and that obviously most fighters coming back after knockouts like that, you kind of have to shake the cobwebs. You have to go through maybe 2 or 3 more fights before you start getting back to the usual confidence that you had before you got knocked out like that. And I think in this fight, Arjan, his game plan was trying not to get hurt, rather than trying to go in and implement his game plan, implement whatever kind of offense he has. I know it's a scary thing going up against someone like Amir. Amir's a freak of nature. He's arguably one of the best fighters in that division. And my personal opinion is the next in line to fight Anatoly for the heavyweight title. If Anatoly doesn't get a middleweight contender or light heavyweight contender, his next fight has to be Amir Aliabari, because Amir is, I think, next in line. So, and especially beating Arjan, who was the last guy who fought Anatoly in the heavyweight division, that definitely has to put Amir in the next spot to take on the title. And I think he's also the best fit to fight Anatoly, being Iranian, born in Russia, born in Iran, living in Russia, and then it will be a good all-Russian affair. And I personally do think that Amir has the makings or has the attributes to actually give Anatoly a good run for his money, if not potentially beating him as well. So let's see. I hope Power One makes that fight. Let me know what you think in the comments, what the next fight needs to be for the heavyweight title. Okay. And then I just want to close off with touching base on the honorable mentions I mentioned in the previous episode when I previewed. Zawher Al-Qatani and Madedi Zatut was a catchweight boxing fight, and I think Madedi Zatut won that one with unanimous decision. Was the better, slicker boxer coming into that fight, even though Al-Qatani is the natural boxer. I don't think he had anything going for it. I think also he was the catchweight is a very strange thing, because the Al-Qatani, you could see, wasn't even remotely close to the weight, size, length, everything that Madedi Zatut brought to the table. He was just outmatched. And I think whenever the one championship is going to do catchweight fights like this, whether it's boxing or special rules, maybe make it a bit more even. Let it be where the weight discrepancy isn't that massive. I think that's going to be a bit more beneficial for both fighters because every time I've watched the special rules and now this one as well, the boxing fight, I just looked like it was a mismatch. I kind of find that a little bit problematic. And then lastly, the fight that really took my breath was the flyweight submission grappling match between Usama Al Marwai and Slaver Sosa. And Slaver Sosa is just a top class jiu-jitsu specialist. Now, since he's beat Osama, I think that might set him up for a Mikey Musi Messi match. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, but I think that should be Sosa's next fight. He definitely should get a title shot against Mikey Musi Messi. Other than that, it was a good card nonetheless. Good wins, good display of martial arts, good grappling. As you know, the One Championship never ever ceases to disappoint. They always bring it, big events every weekend, and just all around brilliant martial arts on all fronts. So fantastic card. So yeah, that's my time for my breakdown. Catch myself and Jed when we recap the next fight cards, which will most likely be either the next One Championship event or definitely the next UFC event, the 299. But don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay in touch when we do break down and recap the events that come up with everything fight content. On that note, guys, stay safe, stay humble, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.